Daddy, why is she sleeping here?" The innocent question pierced through the bitter December wind as 5-year-old Lily tugged at her father's expensive cashmere coat. Ethan Walker froze his gaze, falling upon the young woman curled on a snow-covered bench, a baby wrapped in her threadbare jacket. In that moment, as Christmas lights twinkled mockingly overhead, and Manhattan's elite rushed past, unseeing, a millionaire's carefully constructed walls began to crumble. One question from a child would change 4 lives forever. Dear viewers, I invite you to follow this extraordinary journey of love, redemption, and the unexpected family born from a single act of compassion. Please comment your city below. I'd love to know how far this story has traveled to reach your heart. The snow fell like scattered diamonds against the backdrop of Manhattan's glittering skyline, each flake catching the amber glow of streetlights before disappearing into the gathering darkness. Christmas Eve in New York City held a particular kind of magic shop. Windows blazed with festive displays, the air rang with distant carols, and the usual harsh edges of the city seemed softened by the season's promise of miracles. Ethan Walker adjusted his daughter's bright red mittens, ensuring her small hands were properly protected against the December chill. At 35, he cut an impressive figure against the winter landscape, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark hair peppered prematurely with silver at the temples, a testament to the grief that had aged him beyond his years. His charcoal gray overcoat, tailored to perfection, spoke of wealth and success, but his eyes, those storm-gray eyes that his late wife had once called windows to his soul, held shadows that no amount of money could erase. "Daddy, look at all the lights." Lily's voice bubbled with the kind of pure joy that only children could muster. She spun in a circle, her pink puffer jacket making her look like a tiny twirling marshmallow. Her blonde curls, so much like her mother's, escaped from beneath her knitted cap, framing a face that still held the rounded sweetness of early childhood. "They're beautiful, sweetheart," Ethan agreed, his voice gentle as he watched his daughter's wonder. This was why he'd brought her out tonight despite the late hour and the cold. 3 years had passed since Sarah's death, 3 Christmases where the apartment had felt more like a mausoleum than a home. This year, he'd promised himself, would be different. This year, he would give Lily the magic she deserved. They walked hand in hand through Central Park, their footsteps creating a soft rhythm against the snow-covered paths. The park was quieter than usual, most families already tucked away in warm homes, preparing for tomorrow's festivities. The trees stood like silent sentinels, their bare branches decorated with a natural tinsel of ice and snow. "Daddy, can we see the big tree again?" Lily asked, referring to the famous Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. "It's getting late, Princess. How about we head home and have some hot chocolate instead? Maria made your favorite cookies." Lily's lower lip jutted out in a pout that Ethan knew all too well. "Just 5 more minutes, please." Before he could respond, Lily had broken free from his grasp, running ahead toward a bench near the park's edge. "Lily, wait," he called, quickening his pace to catch up with her. His heart always seized with momentary panic when she moved beyond his immediate reach, a remnant of the fear that had gripped him since becoming her sole protector. But Lily had stopped abruptly, standing perfectly still in front of a bench partially hidden by an overgrown holly bush. The cheerful red berries seemed almost obscene against the scene before them. "Daddy!" Lily's voice had changed, dropping to a whisper filled with confusion and concern. "Why is she sleeping here?" Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he took in the sight that had captured his daughter's attention. A young woman, perhaps in her mid-20s, was curled on the bench in a position that spoke of someone trying desperately to conserve warmth. Her thin jacket, more suitable for autumn than a New York winter, was wrapped not around herself, but around a small bundle pressed against her chest. Even from several feet away, Ethan could see her body trembling with cold. The woman's face, though partially hidden by tangled dark hair, showed the kind of exhaustion that went beyond mere physical tiredness. Her cheeks were hollow, her lips tinged blue from the cold, and there were dark circles under her closed eyes that suggested she hadn't truly rested in days, perhaps weeks. One of her shoes had a hole in it stuffed with newspaper in a futile attempt to keep out the cold and damp. "Is she sick, Daddy?" Lily asked, taking a step closer to the bench. "Stay back, sweetheart," Ethan said, automatically, his protective instincts kicking in. His mind raced through the options they should leave. Call the authorities, perhaps let someone else handle this situation. It wasn't his responsibility. He had Lily to think about. But then the bundle in the woman's arms moved, and a thin cry pierced the night air, the unmistakable sound of an infant in distress. "Daddy, there's a baby!" Lily exclaimed, her eyes wide with alarm. "The baby's cold!" The woman's eyes flew open at the sound of voices, revealing eyes the color of winter seas, gray-green and filled with a terror that made Ethan take an involuntary step backward. She clutched the baby tighter, trying to sit up while simultaneously shrinking away from them. "Please." Her voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Please, I'm not causing trouble. We'll move. Just give me a moment." She struggled to stand, but her legs, stiff with cold, betrayed her. She stumbled, nearly dropping the baby, and would have fallen if Ethan hadn't instinctively reached out to steady her. The moment his hand touched her arm, he could feel how thin she was beneath the inadequate jacket, could feel the violent trembling that racked her frame. Up close, he could see that the baby, no more than 6 months old, was wrapped in what looked like a collection of scarves and a single thin blanket. The infant's face was pinched with cold and hunger. "Daddy, we have to help them," Lily said, with the absolute certainty that only children possess. "It's Christmas Eve. Mommy always said we should help people on Christmas." The mention of Sarah hit Ethan like a physical blow. His late wife would have already been pulling off her coat to wrap around. The woman would have been digging in her purse for money, food, anything to help. Sarah had possessed the kind of compassion that had made her light up any room she entered, the kind that had made him a better man just by proximity. The woman was trying to pull away from his supporting grip. "I'm sorry," she kept repeating. "We're not bothering anyone. We'll go. Please, just where will you go?" The question came from Lily, not Ethan. The little girl had moved closer, her mittened hand reaching out toward the baby. "You can't sleep outside. It's snowing." The woman's composure, held together by threads of desperate pride, finally cracked. A single tear slid down her cheek, immediately freezing in the bitter air. There's a shelter on 42nd. If I can just..." "The shelters are full," Ethan heard himself saying. He knew this because his company had recently made a substantial donation to several homeless organizations, and the director had mentioned they were turning people away nightly due to overcrowding. "They've been full all week." The woman closed her eyes, swaying slightly on her feet. The baby made another weak cry, and she bounced it gently, making soft, shushing sounds, even as her own body shook with cold. "What's your name?" Ethan asked, surprising himself with the gentleness in his voice. She hesitated, as if even sharing her name might be dangerous. "Claire," she finally whispered. "Claire Evans. This is Noah." "Claire," Ethan repeated, testing the name. "When did you last eat?" She didn't answer, but the way her arms tightened around Noah told him everything he needed to know. "Daddy," Lily tugged at his coat. "We have so much food at home. Maria cooked for days. Remember, she said she made too much." Ethan looked down at his daughter's earnest face, then back at Claire, who seemed to be fighting just to remain upright. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to give her money for a hotel room and walk away. He could call his driver, have him deliver warm clothes and food. He could help from a distance, maintain the boundaries that had kept him and Lily safe in their grief-cushioned bubble for 3 years. But then Noah let out another cry, weaker this time, and Claire's knees buckled. Ethan caught her fully this time, supporting her weight as she struggled to hold on to consciousness. "That's it," he said, decision crystallizing in his mind. "You're coming with us." Claire's eyes widened in alarm. "No, we couldn't." "You can and you will," Ethan said firmly, already pulling out his phone to call his driver. "I'm not leaving you and an infant on a park bench in a snowstorm on Christmas Eve." "But you don't know us," Claire protested weakly. I could be anyone." "You're someone who needs help," Lily said, simply reaching up to take Claire's free hand. "And it's Christmas. Santa wouldn't leave you outside." Despite everything, a tiny smile flickered across Claire's features at the child's words. "Santa, huh? He's very strict about Christmas rules," Lily informed her solemnly. "Daddy, tell her." Ethan found himself almost smiling as well. She's right. Christmas rules are very clear about helping people. His driver answered on the second ring. "Marcus, yes, I need you at the southeast entrance to Central Park, immediately, and turn the heat up in the car." As they waited for the car, Ethan shrugged out of his overcoat and wrapped it around Claire and Noah, ignoring her weak protests. The coat engulfed her thin frame, but he could see the immediate relief in her features as the residual warmth from his body began to seep into hers. "Why?" Claire asked, her voice barely audible. "Why would you do this?" Ethan looked at Lily, who was now gently stroking Noah's tiny hand, where it had escaped from the blankets, humming what sounded like Silent Night under her breath. "Because my daughter is watching," he said simply, "and I want her to grow up in a world where people help each other." The black Lincoln town car pulled up moments later, Marcus stepping out with professional efficiency. If the older man was surprised to see his employer helping a disheveled woman and baby into the vehicle, his face didn't show it. Marcus had been with the Walker family for 15 years. He'd learned to roll with whatever came. "The penthouse, sir?" Marcus asked, meeting Ethan's eyes in the rearview mirror. "Yes, and Marcus called Dr. Rosenberg. Ask him to make a house call." "Daddy's friend is a doctor," Lily explained to Claire, who had shrunk into the corner of the car, clearly overwhelmed by the luxury surrounding her. "He's nice. He gives me stickers even when I'm not sick." Claire held Noah tighter, her eyes darting between Ethan and Lily as if trying to figure out what kind of trap this might be. Ethan recognized the look. It was the expression of someone who had learned that kindness always came with a price. The ride to the Upper East Side took less than 20 minutes, but Ethan watched as the warmth of the car began to work its magic. Claire's violent shivering gradually subsided, and Noah's cries became less desperate, more like the normal fussing of a hungry baby. "How old is he?" Lily asked, peering at Noah with fascination. 6 months, Claire replied softly. 6 months and 3 days. "He's tiny," Lily observed. "I was probably bigger when I was a baby, wasn't I, Daddy?" "You were perfect," Ethan said, automatically the response worn smooth by repetition. "Mommy used to say I was her perfect little angel," Lily continued, and Ethan saw Claire's eyes flicker with understanding, the understanding of loss that only those who had experienced it could recognize. "She's in heaven now. Do you have a mommy, Claire?" "Lily," Ethan warned gently, but Claire shook her head. "It's okay," she said. "No, sweetie, I don't have a mommy anymore either." Lily nodded sagely. "It's sad sometimes, but Daddy says the love doesn't go away, it just changes shape." Ethan's throat tightened. Those had been Sarah's words spoken to him in her final days as she tried to prepare him for a future without her. He hadn't realized Lily had been listening, had internalized them. The car pulled up to a gleaming residential tower, all glass and steel, reaching toward the sky. The doorman, dressed in a uniform more expensive than Claire's entire outfit, rushed to open the door. "Good evening, Mr. Walker." "Miss Lily," he greeted warmly, his eyes sliding over Claire and Noah with professional discretion. "Hello, George," Lily chirped. "This is Claire and baby Noah. They're having Christmas with us." "How wonderful," George replied without missing a beat. "Welcome, Miss Claire, Master Noah." Claire looked stunned as they entered the marble lobby with its soaring ceilings and abstract art pieces that probably cost more than most people's annual salaries. Ethan could see her trying to shrink into herself, acutely aware of how out of place she looked. The private elevator whisked them up to the penthouse opening directly into a foyer that could have graced the pages of Architectural Digest. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city lights, and a massive Christmas tree dominated one corner of the living room, its ornaments glittering like jewels. "Maria," Lily called out, running ahead. "We have guests." Maria emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. The housekeeper, a warm woman in her 50s who had been with the family since before Lily was born, took in the scene with one comprehensive glance. "I'll prepare the guest room," she said simply, though Ethan caught the questioning look she shot him, "and heat up some soup." "Thank you, Maria. This is Claire and Noah. They'll be staying with us tonight." "Just tonight," Claire interjected quickly. "We couldn't impose more than, we'll see." Ethan cut her off gently. "For now, let's focus on getting you both warm and fed." Dr. Rosenberg arrived within the hour, a kindly man in his 60s who had been the Walker family physician for years. He examined both Claire and Noah with gentle efficiency, while Ethan took Lily to get ready for bed. "But Daddy, I want to stay up with Claire and Noah," Lily protested as he tucked her into her princess-themed bed. "They need to rest, sweetheart. You can see them in the morning. Promise they'll still be here." Ethan hesitated. He couldn't make that promise, didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But looking at his daughter's hopeful face, he found himself nodding. "They'll be here." When he returned to the living room, he found Claire on the sofa, Noah sleeping peacefully in her arms. She'd changed into some of Sarah's clothes that Maria had found. They hung loose on her thin frame, but they were clean and warm. Her hair was still damp from what must have been her first hot shower in days. Dr. Rosenberg pulled him aside. "The baby is malnourished but otherwise healthy. Nothing that proper feeding won't fix. The mother, however—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "She's exhausted, dehydrated, and showing signs of prolonged stress. She needs rest, proper nutrition, and—" He hesitated again. "Mr. Walker, there are bruises, old ones healing but distinctive. Someone has hurt this young woman." Ethan's jaw tightened. He looked over at Claire, who was staring down at Noah with such fierce love that it made his chest ache. "What do you recommend? Rest, safety, time." Dr. Rosenberg packed up his medical bag. "I've left some vitamins and formula for the baby. She's been doing her best, but she can't produce enough milk in her current state. I'll check on them in a few days, if they're still here." After the doctor left, Ethan found himself sitting in the chair across from Claire, watching as she fought to stay awake. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "Both of you." "People don't do this," Claire said, her voice thick with exhaustion and unshed tears. "Rich people especially don't just take in strangers." "My wife would have," Ethan said, surprising himself with the admission. "She would have had you moved in already, probably planning Noah's first birthday party." "She sounds wonderful." She was. The familiar ache settled in his chest. "She died 3 years ago. Cancer." "I'm sorry." They sat in silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows like earthbound stars. "Noah's father?" Ethan asked gently. Claire's expression hardened. "Gone, the moment I told him I was pregnant." She paused, then added quietly, "My parents disowned me when I refused to not have him. Said I was ruining my life, that I was a disappointment. I haven't spoken to them since." "How have you been surviving?" "I was working at a diner, living in a small apartment in Queens. But then Noah got sick, just a cold. But I had to miss work to take care of him. They fired me. Without a job, I couldn't pay rent. The landlord gave me 3 days, then changed the locks. Her voice was matter-of-fact, as if she was discussing someone else's life. That was 2 weeks ago. We've been moving between shelters and the streets since then. 2 weeks? Ethan repeated, horror creeping into his voice. In this weather, you do what you have to do, Claire said, simply adjusting Noah's blanket. He's all that matters. Ethan recognized the fierce parental love in her voice, the same force that had driven him through the darkness after Sarah's death, the need to keep going for his child, even when he wanted nothing more than to stop. You need to rest, he said. Maria has prepared the guest room. It has everything you need. Claire stood carefully, Noah still sleeping in her arms. Mr. Walker, Ethan. Ethan, she repeated. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to, just rest. We can figure everything else out tomorrow. As she turned to go, she paused. Your daughter, she's special. You've done an amazing job with her. She's the best of her mother, Ethan said softly. Claire nodded and made her way to the guest room, her steps slow and careful, as if she was afraid that moving too quickly might shatter this temporary haven. Ethan remained in the living room long after she'd gone, staring out at the city below. He thought about Sarah, about what she would say if she could see him now. He could almost hear her voice. You did good, my love. Keep going. His phone buzzed with messages, work, emails, party invitations, the usual detritus of his life. He ignored them all. Tomorrow was Christmas, and for the first time in 3 years, he found himself almost looking forward to it. Late that night, he heard Noah crying and soft footsteps in the hallway. He found Claire in the kitchen trying to prepare a bottle one-handed while holding the fussing baby. Let me, Ethan offered, taking the bottle from her shaking hands. Together they prepared the formula, Claire explaining how she'd been rationing what little she had, watering it down to make it last longer. The guilt in her voice was palpable. You did what you had to do. Ethan echoed her earlier words. You kept him alive. That's what matters. As Claire fed Noah, Ethan found himself telling her about Sarah, how they'd met in college, how she'd made him laugh, how she'd faced her illness with a grace he still couldn't understand. He talked about Lily, about the challenge of raising a daughter alone, about the fear that he wasn't enough. You are, though, Claire said softly. Enough, I mean. The way she looks at you, that's a little girl who knows she's loved. They talked until dawn began to lighten the sky, sharing stories and silence in equal measure. Noah had long since fallen back asleep, but neither of them seemed willing to break the spell of this unexpected connection. I should let you sleep, Ethan finally said, noticing how Claire's eyes were struggling to stay open. I'm afraid if I sleep, I'll wake up and this will all have been a dream, she admitted. It's not, he assured her. You're here, you're safe. And tomorrow, today, actually is Christmas. Lily will be up in about 2 hours, demanding to open presents and insisting you and Noah join us. We couldn't, you could, and you will, Ethan said, echoing his words from the park. It's Christmas rules, remember? A small smile crossed Claire's features. Christmas rules. As she made her way back to the guest room, Ethan called after her. Claire, I'm glad Lily found you. I think we needed you to find us too. She paused, looking back at him with those sea-green eyes that held such depths of pain and hope. Thank you, Ethan, for everything. After she'd gone, Ethan stood by the windows watching the sun rise over Manhattan. The city was waking up to Christmas morning, and for the first time in years, so was he. Really waking up, not just going through the motions. He thought about the randomness of it all, if they'd taken a different path through the park, if Lily hadn't run ahead, if Claire had chosen a different bench. So many tiny decisions that had led to this moment, to 2 broken families finding each other in the snow. Daddy! Lily's voice came from behind him. She was standing in her pajamas, her stuffed rabbit dragging behind her. Is it Christmas? It is, sweetheart. Are Claire and Noah still here? They are. Lily padded over to him and he lifted her up so she could see the sunrise. Daddy, I think Mommy sent them to us. Ethan's breath caught. What makes you say that? Because Mommy always said angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they just need help finding their way home. She leaned her head against his shoulder. And we have such a big home. Ethan held his daughter tighter, feeling something shift inside his chest, a wall crumbling, a door opening, a heart remembering how to hope. Can we keep them, Daddy? Lily asked. Not like pets, but like family. We'll see, Princess, he said. But even as he spoke the careful words, he knew the truth. Claire and Noah had already changed something fundamental in their carefully ordered world. They'd brought mess and complication and uncertainty, and with it, life. Real, unpredictable, beautiful life. Maria emerged from the kitchen, already starting preparations for Christmas dinner. She caught Ethan's eye and nodded toward the guest room with a knowing look. I'll set 2 extra places, she said simply. Make it permanent settings. Ethan heard himself saying, I have a feeling they'll be staying for a while. Maria smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her in months. It's about time this house felt like a home again. As if on cue, Noah's cry echoed from the guest room. Not distressed this time, just the normal sound of a baby waking up. Claire's soft voice followed, singing a lullaby Ethan didn't recognize. Come on, Daddy, Lily said, wiggling to get down. It's Christmas. We need to wake them up properly, with presents and pancakes and hot chocolate. Lily was already running toward the guest room. Claire, Noah, it's Christmas. Ethan followed more slowly, pausing at the threshold of the guest room. Claire was sitting up in bed, Noah in her arms, looking bewildered but touched, as Lily climbed up beside them, chattering excitedly about Santa and presents and all the traditions they were going to share. I'm sorry, Claire said to Ethan over Lily's head. I tried to tell her to let you sleep. Don't apologize, Ethan said, entering the room. This is the most alive this house has felt in 3 years. And it was true. The careful silence that had shrouded the penthouse since Sarah's death had been broken by a baby's cries and a young woman's lullabies. The perfectly ordered existence he'd maintained like armor against the world had been disrupted by 2 souls who needed shelter from the storm. Daddy, can Noah have presents too? Lily asked. He doesn't have any under the tree. We'll figure something out, Ethan promised, already mentally cataloging which of Lily's old toys were still in storage, what could be wrapped quickly, while Maria kept them busy with breakfast. You've already given us so much, Claire protested. It's Christmas, Lily said firmly, as if that explained everything, and perhaps it did. As Ethan watched his daughter show Claire and Noah around their home, he realized not just his and Lily's anymore. He felt Sarah's presence like a warm embrace. She would have loved this, would have loved Claire's quiet strength and Noah's sweet face, and the way Lily had immediately claimed them as hers. The morning sun streamed through the windows, painting everything in gold. Outside, snow continued to fall, but inside the penthouse, a different kind of magic was taking shape. It was the magic of new beginnings, of unexpected families, of love finding a way through loss. Walker, Ethan, Claire said, shifting Noah to one arm and reaching out to touch his hand. I want you to know we won't take advantage. As soon as I can get back on my feet. Take your time, Ethan interrupted. Rome wasn't built in a day, and lives aren't rebuilt in one either. But why? You still haven't really told me why you're doing all this. Ethan looked at Lily, who was now showing Noah the view from the window, pointing out all the Christmas decorations visible on other buildings. Because my daughter reminded me that helping people isn't about why. It's about why not. Why not offer shelter when we have room? Why not share our abundance? Why not choose kindness when the world offers so many reasons to choose otherwise? Claire's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what we did to deserve this. You survived, Ethan said simply. You protected your son against impossible odds. You loved him more than your own comfort or safety. If that doesn't deserve kindness, I don't know what does. Noah reached out with one chubby hand, grasping Ethan's finger with surprising strength. The touch was electric, awakening something paternal that had been focused solely on Lily for so long. "See," Lily said, noticing the interaction. "Noah likes you, Daddy. Babies know good people." "Another piece of Mommy's wisdom?" Ethan asked. "No," Lily said proudly. "That one's mine." They all laughed, even Claire, who looked startled by the sound coming from her own throat, as if she'd forgotten she could produce such a thing. "Come on," Ethan said, making a decision that felt both sudden and inevitable. "Let's go have Christmas breakfast. Maria makes pancakes that are legendary, and I have a feeling this is going to be a Christmas worth remembering." As they made their way to the dining room, Lily skipping ahead, Claire carrying Noah, Ethan following with a heart fuller than it had been in years, he couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah was watching, approving, perhaps even orchestrating this whole unlikely scenario. The dining table, which had felt too large and empty for so long, suddenly seemed just the right size with 4 people around it. Maria had outdone herself: pancakes shaped like snowmen, fresh fruit arranged like wreaths, hot chocolate with mountains of whipped cream. "This is too much," Claire whispered, overwhelmed. "This is perfect," Lily corrected, already digging into her pancakes with enthusiasm. As they ate, Ethan found himself really looking at Claire for the first time in full daylight. Beneath the exhaustion and the marks of hardship, there was a delicate beauty: high cheekbones, expressive eyes, and hands that moved with an artist's grace as she carefully fed Noah small bits of mashed banana. "What did you do before?" he asked. "For work, I mean." Claire flushed slightly. "I was studying art history at NYU, almost finished my degree when—" She gestured at Noah. "Well, priorities changed." "You'll finish," Lily said with certainty. "Daddy knows people at universities. He gives them money for buildings." "Lily," Ethan said, embarrassed by his daughter's frank assessment of his philanthropy. "It's true," Lily insisted. "You said the Walker name should mean something good in the world." Claire was staring at him. "Walker, as in Walker Industries, the development company." Ethan nodded, waiting for the usual reaction, the calculation, the sudden interest, the subtle shift that came when people realized just how wealthy he was. But Claire just looked more frightened. "I can't. This is too much. You must think I'm some kind of gold digger, or I think you're a mother who was sleeping on a park bench in a snowstorm to keep your baby alive," Ethan said firmly. "I think you're someone who chose the hard path because it was the right one, and I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now." Before Claire could respond, Lily jumped up from the table. Present time. The next hour was a whirlwind of wrapping paper and ribbon. Lily insisted on sharing her presents with Noah, who was more interested in the crinkly paper than the actual toys. Ethan had managed to wrap a few things for Claire: a warm sweater from Sarah's closet that had never been worn, a set of art books from his library, a gift card he'd had in his desk drawer. "You didn't have to," Claire began. "Christmas rules," Lily reminded her sternly. But the moment that would stay with Ethan forever came when Claire pulled out a small, carefully wrapped package from the diaper bag she'd been carrying. "It's not much," she said shyly, handing it to Lily. "I made it a while ago, been carrying it, hoping to sell it, but I'd like you to have it." Lily unwrapped it carefully, revealing a small painted ornament, a perfect miniature portrait of an angel with golden curls and a bright smile. "It looks like me," Lily exclaimed. "I saw you 2 weeks ago," Claire admitted, "at the Christmas market. You were with your father picking out a tree ornament. You were so happy, so full of light. I sketched you from memory and painted this. I never imagined I'd actually meet you." Ethan's throat tightened. 2 weeks ago they'd been at that market. It had been one of Lily's good days when the sadness didn't weigh her down. To think that Claire had been there, watching, creating art despite her circumstances. "It's beautiful," he said roughly. "You're very talented." "I want to hang it on the tree right now," Lily declared, running to the massive Christmas tree. As she carefully placed the ornament on a prime branch, Ethan found himself standing next to Claire, watching their children. When had he started thinking of them as their children play by the tree? "This doesn't feel real," Claire said softly. "The best things rarely do," Ethan replied. Noah had fallen asleep in Claire's arms, milk-drunk and content. Lily was arranging and rearranging presents, creating elaborate stories about what Santa had been thinking when he delivered each one. The snow outside had picked up, turning the city into a snow globe, and the penthouse felt like a warm bubble of safety floating above it all. "Can they stay forever, Daddy?" Lily asked suddenly, looking up from her toys. The question hung in the air like the snowflakes outside. Claire tensed, ready to deflect, to protect herself and Noah from wanting too much. But Ethan found himself answering with a truth he hadn't expected. "Let's start with tomorrow," he said, "and then the day after that. And we'll keep going one day at a time as long as it feels right." "It feels right now," Lily said simply. Looking at the scene before him, his daughter's joy, Claire's tentative hope, Noah's peaceful sleep, the warmth and light filling spaces that had been cold and dark for too long, Ethan had to agree. It did feel right, impossibly, unexpectedly, miraculously right. As the snow continued to fall over Manhattan, blanketing the city, and pristine white four souls who had been lost in their own winters began the slow, sweet process of thawing. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring, what challenges awaited, what fears and doubts would surface. But for now, for this perfect Christmas morning, they had found their way to each other. And sometimes that's how the best families begin, not with blood or planning or logic, but with a child's innocent question on a snowy night. "Daddy, why is she sleeping here?" The answer, Ethan was learning, was simple: so she could wake up home. The days following Christmas unfolded with a delicate rhythm, like a song being composed one note at a time. Claire moved through the penthouse with the careful grace of someone afraid to disturb the air around her, as if too much presence might shatter this fragile sanctuary. She woke each morning expecting to find it had all been a dream, only to hear Lily's cheerful voice drifting down the hallway asking if Noah was awake yet. On the third day, Ethan found Claire standing by the massive windows in the living room, Noah sleeping against her shoulder, her eyes fixed on the city below. The morning light caught the angles of her face, revealing a wistfulness that made his chest tighten. "It's overwhelming, isn't it?" he said softly, not wanting to startle her. She turned, offering a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I keep waiting for someone to tell me I don't belong here, that it's time to leave." "No one's going to say that," Ethan assured her, though he noticed Maria watching from the kitchen doorway with an expression he couldn't quite read. The housekeeper had been cordial but distant with Claire, maintaining a professional boundary that felt more like a wall. Ethan understood Maria's protectiveness. She'd been Sarah's confidant, had held Lily through countless tears after her mother's death, but he also saw how Claire noticed every cool glance, every perfectly polite but emotionally vacant interaction. "Miss Evans," Maria said, stepping into the room with her characteristic efficiency, "the baby's formula is ready." "Thank you," Claire replied, her voice equally formal. "And please call me Claire." Maria nodded but made no commitment to the familiarity. As she returned to the kitchen, Ethan caught Claire's shoulder sagging slightly. "She'll warm up," he said. "Maria's just protective. She's been our family's guardian angel for years." "She has every right to be suspicious," Claire said, shifting Noah's weight. "A stranger from the street suddenly living in your home with your daughter here, I'd be suspicious too." Before Ethan could respond, Lily burst into the room, still in her pajamas, despite it being nearly noon. "Claire, Daddy says we can go to the Children's Museum today. Can Noah come?" "I don't know, sweetheart," Claire began, but Lily was already planning. "He'll love the bubble room, and there's a special area for babies. Please." Ethan watched Claire struggle with the decision. He'd noticed how she tensed whenever they discussed leaving the penthouse, as if the outside world held threats he couldn't see. "We'll take Marcus," he offered. "The car will be right outside. We can leave whenever you're comfortable." Something shifted in Claire's expression, a flash of fear quickly suppressed. Maybe Noah and I should stay here. You and Lily should have your father-daughter time." But you're part of our family now, Lily protested, then paused, looking uncertain. Aren't you? The question hung in the air like a held breath. Ethan saw Claire's hands tremble slightly as she adjusted Noah's blanket. We're friends, Claire said carefully. Very grateful friends. Lily's face fell slightly, and Ethan felt an unexpected sting at the diplomatic distance in Claire's words. But what had he expected? They were strangers, still bound together by circumstance and compassion, nothing more. The museum trip didn't happen. Claire claimed Noah was fussy, needed help on his nap, but Ethan saw the relief in her eyes when he didn't push. Instead, Lily spent the afternoon showing Noah her extensive collection of picture books while Claire sketched in a notebook Ethan had found for her. You're really good, Ethan said, looking over her shoulder at a detailed drawing of Lily reading to Noah. Claire's hand stilled. I used to dream of being an artist. Had a scholarship and everything. She laughed, but it was bitter. My parents said art was a hobby, not a career. They wanted me to study business, marry well. When I chose art anyway, they were furious. When I got pregnant, she trailed off, her pencil moving again, adding shadows to Lily's hair. Do you ever think about going back to school? With what money, what time, and who would watch Noah? She shook her head. Those dreams belong to a different person, someone who doesn't exist anymore. People can surprise you, Ethan said, thinking of his own transformation from grieving widower to whatever he was becoming now, even yourself. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Ethan found Claire in the kitchen, attempting to help Maria with dishes. The housekeeper was maintaining a studied distance, redirecting Claire's efforts with polite firmness. You're a guest, Maria said. Guests don't do housework. I'm not a guest, Claire replied quietly. I don't know what I am, but I'm not a guest. Guests leave. Maria's hands paused in their efficient movements. And you're not leaving. Claire glanced toward the living room, where Noah was sleeping in a bouncer Ethan had ordered. I don't know anything anymore. Mr. Walker is a good man, Maria said slowly, as if choosing each word carefully. But he's also a grieving man, and grieving people sometimes make decisions based on filling empty spaces rather than wisdom. Claire's face flushed. You think I'm taking advantage of his grief? I think you're a young woman with a baby and no options, Maria replied, not unkindly, but with devastating honesty. And I think that combination has destroyed better men than Mr. Walker. Maria, Ethan's voice cut through the kitchen like a blade. Both women turned to find him standing in the doorway, his expression thunderous. A word, please. The housekeeper followed him to his study, her spine straight but her hands clasped tightly. How dare you? Ethan began, his voice low but vibrating with anger. How dare you make assumptions about Claire's character or my judgment? Someone needs to protect you. Maria shot back, surprising him with her vehemence. Someone needs to ask the hard questions. Where did she come from? Who is she really? Why was she on the streets? She was on the streets because the world failed her, Ethan said. Because her parents abandoned her for choosing to keep her child. Because her employer fired her for missing work to care for a sick infant. Because sometimes terrible things happen to good people. Or because she's running from something or someone. Maria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Mr. Walker, I watched Mrs. Sarah trust everyone. It was her greatest strength, and I loved her for it. But you have Lily to think about. I am thinking about Lily, Ethan said, more quietly. I'm thinking about the lesson I want to teach her about compassion and humanity. I'm thinking about the light that's come back into her eyes since Claire and Noah arrived. Maria's shoulders sagged. I can't watch this family break again. I can't. Ethan softened, understanding the fear beneath her suspicion. Neither can I. But maybe Maria, maybe the only way to avoid breaking is to risk opening up again. When he returned to the kitchen, Claire was gone. He found her in the guest room, packing the few belongings she had into a plastic bag. What are you doing? Leaving, she said without looking at him. Maria's right. I don't belong here. I'm causing problems. You're not going anywhere. He took the bag from her hands, especially not because of a conversation that wasn't even yours to hear. She's right, though, Claire said, sinking onto the bed. You don't know me. You don't know why I was really on that bench. So tell me. Claire looked up at him, those sea-green eyes swimming with tears. His name was David, Noah's father. We met at NYU. He was charming, successful, came from money. My parents loved him, said I was lucky to catch his attention. She wrapped her arms around herself. The first time he hit me, he cried afterward, said it would never happen again. Ethan felt his hands clench into fists, but he forced himself to remain still to let her speak. It did happen again and again, but by then I was pregnant and he said no one would believe me. His family had lawyers' connections. My parents took his side, said I must have provoked him. Her voice was hollow now, reciting facts like a police report. When Noah was born, David wanted nothing to do with him, said he wasn't even sure the baby was his. He threw us out, literally threw our things onto the street. My parents wouldn't take me back. They said I'd made my bed. Claire. The shelters were full of women like me, she continued. Women with black eyes and babies, women with stories no one wanted to hear. But at least we were away from him. Until 2 weeks ago, when I saw one of his friends at the shelter, I knew if David found us. She shuddered. So I stopped going to the shelters. The park bench was safer than risking David finding us. Ethan sat beside her, careful not to touch, not to spook her. You're safe here. He can't hurt you here. You don't know him. His family owns half of Connecticut. They have judges in their pockets. And I own half of Manhattan, Ethan said with a quiet steel that made Claire look at him in surprise. My lawyers eat lawyers like his for breakfast. You're under my protection now, Claire. You and Noah both. Why? The word came out as a whisper. Why do you care so much? Ethan thought about Sarah, about the way she'd fought her cancer with grace but ferocity, about the way she'd made him promise to keep his heart open, to not let grief turn him to stone. Because my wife would have cared, he said simply. Because my daughter cares, and because somewhere in the last few days I started caring too. Claire studied his face as if looking for the lie, the catch, the price that would eventually come due. I'm broken, she said finally. I don't know how to trust anymore. I jump at shadows. I wake up in panic attacks. I'm not the kind of project you can fix with money and kindness. I'm not trying to fix you, Ethan said. I'm just trying to give you space to fix yourself, if you want. Before Claire could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. Are you leaving? Lily stood there in her nightgown, her face crumpled with impending tears. She must have woken up and heard the raised voices. Claire began. Please don't go, Lily said, padding into the room and climbing onto the bed between them. Noah needs you, and I need Noah, and Daddy needs all of us. Lily, sweetheart, Ethan began. It's true, Lily insisted. You smile now, real smiles, not the pretend ones you do for work people, and you don't stare at Mommy's picture all sad at night anymore. Ethan felt exposed, not realizing his daughter had been so aware of his grief rituals. Please stay, Lily said to Claire, taking her hand. We can be a different kind of family. Mommy would understand. She always said love multiplies, it doesn't divide. Claire looked between father and daughter, these two souls who had opened their home and hearts to her without condition. I don't want to hurt you, either of you. Life hurts sometimes, Lily said with wisdom beyond her years, but it hurts less when you're together. The next morning brought a subtle shift in the household. Maria, whether from Ethan's words or her own observations, began to thaw. She asked Claire how she liked her coffee, began making foods that were easier for someone recovering from malnutrition to digest, even offered to watch Noah while Claire took a shower. Thank you, Claire said quietly when Maria handed her a cup of perfectly prepared tea. Mr. Walker seems to trust you, Maria replied. That's enough for me, for now. It was a start. That afternoon, while Noah napped, Lily insisted on having a tea party. She set up her tiny table with great ceremony, complete with her best plastic tea set and several stuffed animal guests. Claire, you sit here, Lily directed. Daddy, you're there. Mr. Bunny doesn't like his seat, but he'll deal with it. As they sipped imaginary tea and discussed very serious matters like whether unicorns preferred chocolate or vanilla cake, Ethan caught Claire actually laughing, not the polite, careful laugh she'd offered before, but something genuine and free. You have a beautiful laugh, he said without thinking. Claire blushed, suddenly fascinated by her tiny teacup. I'd forgotten I could laugh like that. Mommy used to say laughter was medicine, Lily announced. She laughed even when she was sick. She said it made the sad less heavy. Your mother sounds like she was very wise, Claire said softly. The wisest, Lily agreed. That's why I think she sent you to us, as a Christmas present. Later, as evening painted the sky in shades of purple and gold, Ethan found himself working in his home office while Claire sat on the floor with Noah, helping him with tummy time. The baby gurgled and cooed occasionally, letting out delighted squeals when Claire made funny faces. He's getting stronger, Ethan observed, looking up from his laptop. The formula Dr. Rosenberg recommended is helping, Claire said, pride evident in her voice. He's almost back to where he should be weight-wise. And you, how are you doing? Claire considered the question seriously. I'm adjusting. It still doesn't feel real. I keep waiting to wake up. It's real, Ethan assured her, as real as anything else in this strange life. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by Noah's happy babbling and the distant sounds of the city below. Ethan found himself watching Claire with Noah the tender way she responded to every sound, every movement. She was a natural mother despite the circumstances that had led her to motherhood. Can I ask you something? Claire said suddenly. Of course. What was it like when Sarah was sick? How did you keep going? Ethan set aside his laptop, giving her his full attention. Some days I didn't. Some days I raged at the universe, at God, at the unfairness of it all. Sarah was the one who kept us going. She planned everything, wrote letters for Lily's birthdays until she's 18, recorded videos for major milestones, made lists of things she wanted me to teach Lily. She sounds incredible. She was. But she was also human. She had days where she broke down, where the fear overwhelmed her. Those were the days I had to be strong, had to remind her of all the good she'd brought into the world. He paused, lost in memory. The hardest part was after, when she was gone, and I had to figure out how to be both parents, how to fill a void that couldn't be filled. But you did it. I'm doing it, Ethan corrected, present tense. Every day is a choice to keep going, to honor her memory by raising Lily with love and joy instead of just grief. Claire lifted Noah, holding him close. I want that for Noah, a life filled with love and joy, but I'm so scared I can't give him that. You already are, Ethan said. Every sacrifice you've made, every night you went hungry so he could eat, every moment you chose his well-being over your own comfort. That's love in its purest form. Their eyes met across the room, and something electric passed between them. Not attraction, not yet, but understanding. Recognition of one wounded soul by another. The moment was broken by Lily calling out, Daddy, Claire, come quick! They rushed to the living room to find Lily standing by the windows, pointing excitedly. Look, the first star. Sure enough, despite the city's light pollution, a single star had appeared in the darkening sky. Make a wish, Lily commanded. Everyone has to make a wish. They stood together by the window, Ethan, Claire holding Noah and Lily, each making their silent wishes. Ethan found himself wishing not for Sarah's return, as he had for so many nights, but for the strength to move forward to build something new from the ashes of loss. What did you wish for? Lily asked Claire. Can't tell, Claire said with a small smile. Then it won't come true. I wished for us to stay together, Lily announced, apparently unconcerned with wish-making rules, all of us. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan found Claire in the living room, sketching by the light of a single lamp. She was drawing Lily and Noah together, capturing something magical in their interaction that afternoon. "You really are talented," he said, sitting in the chair across from her. "It's just a hobby." "It could be more if you wanted." Claire set down her pencil. "Ethan, I need to be clear about something. I'm grateful for everything you've done, but I can't. I won't be a kept woman. I need to find work, need to contribute. I understand, but you also need time to heal, to get back on your feet. Let me help with that." "For how long? When does charity become dependence?" "This isn't charity," Ethan said firmly. "This is friendship, community, whatever you want to call it, but it's not charity." "Then what is it?" Ethan didn't have an answer for that. He knew what it wasn't. It wasn't romance, not yet. It wasn't obligation. It wasn't pity. But defining what it was seemed impossible, like trying to capture smoke. "It's what Lily said," he finally answered. "It's family. An unconventional one, maybe, but family nonetheless." Claire's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I don't know how to be part of a family anymore. My own threw me away." "Then we'll learn together. God knows I'm still figuring it out myself." A week passed, then two. The household found its rhythm. Claire began helping Maria with cooking, sharing recipes her grandmother had taught her. Maria, in turn, began teaching Claire about the particular preferences of the Walker household, how Ethan liked his coffee, which foods Lily would actually eat, the schedule that kept everything running smoothly. Noah grew stronger and more alert, his personality beginning to emerge. He was a happy baby, quick to smile, fascinated by everything around him. Lily appointed herself his official big sister, reading to him, showing him her toys, explaining very seriously about things like why clouds were white and how butterflies knew where to go. Ethan found himself coming home earlier from work, eager to see what small dramas and joys the day had brought. His colleagues noticed the change, commenting that he seemed lighter somehow, less burdened. "You're seeing someone," his business partner James guessed during a lunch meeting. "No," Ethan said, then paused. "Not exactly." "That's the most interesting answer you've given to anything in 3 years," James observed. "Whoever she is, she's good for you." But the peace was fragile, and cracks began to show. Claire still jumped at unexpected sounds, still checked the locks, obsessively still watched the street from the windows, as if expecting danger to materialize. She hadn't left the penthouse since arriving, despite gentle encouragement from Ethan and enthusiastic plans from Lily. The breaking point came when Ethan suggested enrolling Noah in a Mommy and Me class at the community center. "It would be good for both of you," he said over dinner. "Social interaction structure." "No." Claire's response was immediate and sharp. "No classes, no registration, no paper trails." "Claire, you can't hide forever." "Watch me," she said, then softer. "I have to, for Noah. David can't touch you here. I've already had my lawyers look into it. He has no legal claim to Noah, not after abandoning you both." "Legal doesn't matter to men like him," Claire said, her hands shaking as she cut up food for Noah. "He takes what he wants. Always has." That night, Ethan made a decision. He called his lawyer, not the corporate one, but the personal one who had handled Sarah's estate, who knew about protecting families. "I need you to look into someone," he said. "David." He realized he didn't even know the last name. "Thornton," Claire said from behind him. He turned to find her standing in his office doorway, Noah on her hip. "David Thornton. His father is Richard Thornton, the real estate developer." Ethan knew the name. Everyone in New York real estate knew the Thorntons. They were old money connected and notoriously ruthless in business. "I'll be discreet," his lawyer promised. "But Ethan, if this is what I think it is, you need to be careful. The Thorntons don't like losing." "Neither do I," Ethan replied, looking at Claire's frightened but determined face. "And I have more to fight for." As Claire retreated to put Noah to bed, Ethan stood by his office window looking out at the city lights. He thought about Sarah, about what she would say if she could see him now, preparing to go to war for a woman and child he'd known for mere weeks. But he could almost hear her voice, warm and certain. "Love doesn't follow timelines, my darling. It just is." And standing there with the weight of decision settling on his shoulders, Ethan realized that's what this had become. Not romantic love, perhaps, but love nonetheless. The love of protection, of chosen family, of second chances. Whatever storms were coming, and he could feel them gathering like electricity in the air, he would face them. They all would together. Because sometimes the families we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to weather any storm. The investigation into David Thornton revealed more than Ethan had anticipated. His lawyer, Michael Chen, arrived at the penthouse 3 days later with a manila folder that seemed to carry weight beyond its physical presence. Claire was in the nursery with Noah. The guest room had been transformed with Lily's enthusiastic help, and Ethan received Michael in his study, closing the door firmly behind them. "It's worse than you thought, isn't it?" Ethan said, reading Michael's expression. "David Thornton has a pattern." Michael began spreading documents across the desk. "Claire isn't the first woman to file a complaint against him. There were 2 others, both withdrew their statements after reaching sudden settlements with the family. They were paid off, or threatened off. One left the state entirely, changed her name. The other, she had an accident, fell downstairs in her apartment building. The case was closed, but the detective's notes suggest he had doubts." Ethan felt his blood turn cold. "You're saying he might have..." "I'm saying David Thornton is dangerous and his family enables him. They've covered for him since high school assault charges that disappeared a college roommate who transferred after an altercation, a string of women who suddenly decided not to pursue complaints." "Claire needs to know this," Ethan said, but Michael held up a hand. "There's more. Thornton's been looking for her. He's hired a private investigator. They've been checking shelters, hospitals, social services. It's only a matter of time before they expand their search." Ethan stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Below, Central Park stretched out like a white canvas, pristine and peaceful. Such a contrast to the darkness they were discussing. "What do you recommend?" "Legally document everything. If Claire's willing, we should file for a restraining order, establish a paper trail. But Ethan..." Michael paused, choosing his words carefully. "The Thorntons have resources. They have connections. This could get ugly." "Let it," Ethan said quietly, his voice carrying a steel that Michael had rarely heard. "I have resources too, and unlike the Thorntons, I have nothing to hide." After Michael left, Ethan found Claire in the living room helping Lily with a puzzle while Noah played on a blanket nearby. The domestic scene was so peaceful, so normal, that for a moment he couldn't bring himself to shatter it with the truth. But Claire looked up, saw his face, and immediately tensed. "What's wrong?" "Lily, sweetheart, why don't you show Noah your new books in your room?" "But we're doing the puzzle. Please, princess." Something in his tone must have conveyed the seriousness, because Lily gathered Noah without further protest, though she shot worried glances over her shoulder as she left. Ethan sat beside Claire and told her everything Michael had discovered. He watched the color drain from her face, saw her hands begin to shake. "There were others," she whispered. "I'm not crazy. I'm not exaggerating. There were others." "You were never crazy," Ethan said firmly, "and you're not alone anymore. We're going to handle this. How you don't understand what they're capable of. I understand perfectly, but they don't understand what I'm capable of when it comes to protecting my family." Claire looked at him sharply. "We're not your family, Ethan. We're just..." "You are," he interrupted. "You and Noah, your family now, and I protect what's mine." The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened her, but instead Claire felt something she hadn't experienced in years: safety. Real, solid safety. "He'll come for us," she said. "When he finds us, he'll come. Let him try." That evening, the atmosphere in the penthouse was charged with tension. Even Lily noticed, asking repeatedly if everyone was okay, if Noah was sick, if something bad had happened. They tried to maintain normalcy for her sake, but children are more perceptive than adults often credit. "Is it about Claire's bad man?" Lily asked suddenly during dinner, causing both adults to freeze. "What do you know about that?" Ethan asked carefully. "I heard you and Mr. Chen talking, not on purpose," she added quickly. "I was coming to ask about dessert. Is someone trying to hurt Claire and Noah?" Claire reached across the table, taking Lily's small hand. "Someone from my past isn't very nice, but your daddy is helping us stay safe." "Like a knight," Lily said with satisfaction. "Daddy's good at protecting people. He protected me when Mommy went to heaven. He'll protect you too." That night, after the children were asleep, Ethan found Claire standing by the windows again, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. "It's my fault," she said without preamble. "I brought danger to your home, to Lily." "You brought life to our home," Ethan corrected, moving to stand beside her. "Before you came, this place was a beautiful tomb. Lily and I were going through the motions, but we weren't really living. You would have healed eventually. Maybe. Or maybe we would have just gotten better at pretending." He turned to face her. "Claire, I need you to understand something. Whatever comes, whatever David Thornton tries, I don't regret this. I don't regret opening our door that night." Claire turned to him then, and in the city lights he could see tears tracking down her cheeks. "I've never had anyone fight for me before. My parents always took the other side, always found reasons why I must have been wrong, must have provoked it. Even my friends. They distanced themselves when things got bad with David, like bad luck might be contagious." "Their loss," Ethan said simply. "I don't know how to do this," Claire admitted. "How to accept help without feeling like I'm drowning in debt I can never repay." "There's no debt. This isn't a transaction. It's just life. Messy, complicated, beautiful life." Before Claire could respond, Ethan's phone rang. The doorman's name flashed on the screen. "Mr. Walker, there's a gentleman here insisting on seeing you. Says his name is David Thornton. Should I call the police?" Claire went rigid, her hand flying to her throat. Ethan put the phone on speaker. "Is he alone?" "No, sir. There's another man with him. They seem agitated." "Don't let them up. If they refuse to leave, call the police. I'm coming down." "Ethan, no." Claire grabbed his arm. "That's what he wants. To provoke you, to make you look like the aggressor. Then I'll give him nothing to work with," Ethan said calmly, though rage was building in his chest like a storm. "Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Please, trust me." The elevator ride down felt endless. Ethan forced himself to breathe deeply, to push down the protective fury that made him want to destroy anyone who threatened Claire and Noah. He needed to be calm, cold, strategic. The lobby was marble and gold, designed to impress and intimidate. David Thornton stood near the entrance, and even from across the space, Ethan could see why Claire had been drawn to him initially. He was classically handsome in that prep school way, tall, athletic build, perfectly styled hair. But his eyes gave him away. They were flat, reptilian, devoid of warmth. "You must be Walker," David said, his voice carrying the casual arrogance of someone who'd never faced real consequences. "I understand you have something that belongs to me." "I have nothing of yours," Ethan replied evenly. "My son, my woman, they're here." "I see no son, and Claire Evans is no one's woman. She's a person, not property." David's companion, a thick-necked man who looked like hired muscle, shifted restlessly. David held up a hand to still him. "Let's not play games. Claire is confused. Postpartum depression, you know, makes women irrational. She needs help, medical attention. I'm here to take her home where she can get proper care. She seems perfectly rational to me, rational enough to recognize an abuser when she sees one." David's mask slipped slightly, his jaw tightening. "Careful, Walker. Defamation is a serious charge, as is assault, battery, stalking. Should I continue?" "You have no proof of anything." "Don't I?" Ethan pulled out his phone, making a show of scrolling through it. Interesting what private investigators can find when they're looking in the right places. Hospital records from Mount Sinai dated 18 months ago. Police report that was filed then mysteriously withdrawn. Should I go on? It was partly bluff. Michael was still gathering documentation, but David didn't know that. His face darkened a moment. "You don't know who you're messing with," David said, stepping closer. George, the doorman, moved subtly closer to Ethan's side. "Neither do you," Ethan replied. "I'm not some young woman you can intimidate. I'm not isolated or vulnerable. I have resources you can't imagine and the will to use them." "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You're going to leave now. You're going to stop looking for Claire and Noah. You're going to disappear from their lives completely." David laughed an ugly sound. "Or what? Or I'll destroy you." Ethan's voice was quiet, conversational, which somehow made it more menacing. "I'll start with your father's development project in Brooklyn, the one that's leveraged to the hilt and depends on city approval. Then I'll move on to your mother's charity foundation. Amazing what forensic accountants can find when they really look. Your sister's husband's medical practice, your brother's political aspirations. I'll systematically dismantle your entire family's empire until the Thornton name is synonymous with scandal. You're threatening me. I'm promising you. Leave Claire and Noah alone, or I'll make it my life's mission to destroy everything you hold dear. And unlike you, I don't bluff." David's face had gone pale, then red. His hands clenched into fists. "She's mine. The boy is mine. The boy you abandoned, the woman you abused. They're under my protection now, and if you come near them again, if you so much as send them a birthday card, I'll bury you so deep, your family will pretend you never existed." For a moment, violence hung in the air like smoke. David's companion shifted forward, but George stepped up, and two security guards materialized from their discreet posts. "Leave," Ethan said. "Now, and don't come back." David stared at him for a long moment, and Ethan saw the calculation in his eyes, weighing the cost of pursuit against the threat of destruction. Finally, he turned on his heel and strode out, his companion following. Ethan waited until they were gone, until George confirmed they'd driven away before returning to the penthouse. His hands were shaking now, adrenaline coursing through his system. Claire was waiting just inside the door, and the moment he entered, she threw herself into his arms. He could feel her trembling, could feel the sob she was suppressing against his chest. "It's okay," he murmured, holding her tight. "He's gone. For now. For good. I made sure of it." She pulled back to look at him, searching his face. "What did you do? What needed to be done? What someone should have done for you long ago?" "Ethan." Her hand came up to touch his face, and he realized there were tears on her cheeks. "No one has ever. I don't know how to." "You don't have to say anything." But she rose up on her toes and pressed her lips to his. It was soft, tentative, grateful, and it sent electricity through his entire body. For a moment they stood frozen, the implications of that kiss reverberating between them. Then Noah's cry broke the spell, and Claire stepped back, her face flushed. I need to go," Ethan said gently. "We'll talk later." As she hurried to tend to Noah, Ethan touched his lips, still feeling the warmth of hers. Everything had just shifted, changed in a way that couldn't be undone. The kiss had been born of gratitude and adrenaline, he told himself. It didn't mean anything deeper, but his racing heart called him a liar. The next morning brought a new reality. David's visit had shattered the illusion of the penthouse as an impenetrable sanctuary. Ethan hired additional security, discreet but present. He had Michael Chen fast-track the restraining order, using the lobby confrontation as evidence of harassment. Claire moved through the day like a ghost, jumping at every sound, checking windows obsessively. Lily picked up on the tension, becoming clingy and anxious. "Is the bad man coming back?" she asked at breakfast. "No, sweetheart," Ethan assured her. "I made sure of it. How? I told him to leave our family alone, and he listened. He will. But that afternoon, while Ethan was in his office on a conference call, his personal phone rang. Richard Thornton's name appeared on the screen. Walker, the elder. Thornton's voice was smooth, cultured, dangerous. "I understand you threatened my son last night." I explained the consequences of his continued harassment. "Yes, my son has rights, parental rights. Your son has no rights. He abandoned Claire and Noah. He abused them. And if you're calling to threaten me, you should know I meant every word I said to David." There was a pause. "You're playing a dangerous game, Walker. This isn't a game, not when it comes to protecting innocent people from your son's violence." Violence, that's a serious accusation. It's a documented pattern. How many women have you paid off over the years, Thornton? How many times have you cleaned up David's messes? You know nothing about my family. I know enough, and I'm prepared to make sure everyone else knows, too. You'd start a war over some girl you barely know. I'd start a war to protect anyone from a predator. The fact that it's Claire and Noah just makes it personal." Another pause, longer this time. "What do you want?" "I want David to disappear from their lives. Permanently. No contact, no private investigators, no accidents. They're under my protection now. And if I refuse, then I'll follow through on every threat I made. Your Brooklyn project will be dead by Monday. The foundation audit will begin by Wednesday. By next month, the Thornton name will be toxic in every boardroom in New York. You're that serious about this? Test me and find out." The line went dead. Ethan set down the phone, his hand trembling slightly. He'd just declared war on one of New York's most powerful families. The rational part of his brain said he was insane, throwing away political capital and business relationships for a woman he'd known for weeks. But then he heard Lily's laughter from the living room, followed by Claire's softer laugh and Noah's delighted squeals. The sound filled the hollow spaces in his chest that had been empty since Sarah's death. This was worth fighting for. They were worth fighting for. That evening he found Claire putting Noah to bed. She was singing softly a lullaby. He didn't recognize her voice, sweet and clear. He stood in the doorway watching as she smoothed Noah's dark hair as the baby's eyes fluttered closed. "You have a beautiful voice," he said when she joined him in the hallway. "My grandmother taught me that song. It's the only thing I have left of her." "Claire, about last night." "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I shouldn't have kissed you. It was inappropriate, and I don't want you to think I'm trying to trade on your kindness, or Claire." He stopped her spiral of words. "It wasn't inappropriate, unexpected maybe, but not unwelcome." She looked up at him, those sea-green eyes wide with surprise. "Ethan, you're still grieving your wife. I'm a mess with more baggage than an airport. We can't. This can't." "I know," he said softly. "I know all the reasons why this is complicated, but I also know that for the first time in 3 years, I feel alive. Not just existing, but alive, and that started when you and Noah came into our lives." "I feel it too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm terrified. The last time I trusted someone, the last time I let someone in—" "I'm not him," Ethan said firmly. "I will never be him." "I know that. Logically, I know that. But my heart doesn't trust my logic anymore." "Then we go slow," Ethan said. "We take time. There's no rush, no pressure. We're already living together, already functioning as a family of sorts. Let's just see what develops naturally." Claire nodded, relief visible in her features. "I'd like that. Slow sounds good." "Daddy," Lily's voice came from her room. "Can you and Claire read me a story together?" They exchanged glances, a small smile passing between them. "Coming, Princess," Ethan called. They sat on either side of Lily's bed, taking turns reading pages from her favorite book. Lily held one of each of their hands, creating a circle of connection. As Ethan read about brave princesses and magical kingdoms, he couldn't help but think that they were writing their own fairy tale, one where the prince was broken, the princess was wounded, and Happily ever after wasn't guaranteed, but was worth fighting for anyway. Days passed with a new rhythm. The threat of David Thornton seemed to recede, though Ethan knew better than to let his guard down completely. Michael Chen reported that the Thorntons had gone quiet. No more private investigators, no more inquiries at shelters. It seemed the threat of mutual destruction had worked. At least for now, Claire began to bloom in this newfound safety. She started sketching again, filling notebook after notebook with drawings. She captured moments Lily teaching Noah to clap, Maria flower-dusted, from baking, Ethan reading by the window. Each drawing revealed not just skill, but a unique perspective, a way of seeing beauty in ordinary moments. "You should do something with these," Ethan said one evening, looking through her latest sketches. "Like what I'm a college dropout with a baby and no credentials. You're an artist, the rest is just details." She laughed, but he could see a spark of hope in her eyes, quickly suppressed. The next day, while Claire was napping with Noah, Ethan made some calls. By evening, he had arranged something he hoped would light that spark again. "Get dressed," he told Claire after dinner. "We're going out." "Out?" The word came out panicked. "Ethan, I don't think—" "Trust me, Maria will watch the kids. It's just for a few hours." She emerged from her room wearing one of Sarah's dresses. Ethan had insisted she use anything she needed from Sarah's closet, knowing his wife would have wanted it. The deep blue dress brought out the green in Claire's eyes, and for a moment Ethan forgot how to breathe. "Is this okay?" she asked nervously. "Perfect," he managed. Marcus drove them to a small gallery in Soho. Claire looked confused as Ethan led her inside, where a woman with silver hair and an elegant manner waited. "Ethan Walker," the woman said warmly, "and you must be Claire. I'm Helen Rossetti. I own this gallery." "I don't understand," Claire said, looking between them. "Ethan sent me photos of your work," Helen explained. "I'm impressed, very impressed. I'd like to discuss representation, perhaps a small showing to start." Claire's mouth fell open. "A showing? But I'm nobody. I don't have a degree. I don't have—" "You have talent," Helen interrupted. "Raw, real talent. The rest can be developed." For the next hour, Helen discussed possibilities, opportunities, the potential she saw in Claire's work. Claire listened in a daze, occasionally gripping Ethan's hand, as if to assure herself this was real. "Think about it," Helen said as they prepared to leave. "No pressure, no rush. But Claire, you have something special. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." In the car afterward, Claire was silent. Then suddenly she began to cry, great heaving sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, alarmed. "I shouldn't have ambushed you. I just thought—" "No," she gasped between sobs. "These are good tears, happy tears. No one has ever believed in me like this. Ever." "Get used to it," Ethan said softly, "because I believe in you. Lily believes in you. Even Maria, in her own way, believes in you." "I'm scared," Claire admitted. "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough?" "Then you'll try again. And we'll be there to support you no matter what." She looked at him in the dim light of the car, and something shifted in her expression. "Ethan Walker, you're a remarkable man. I'm just a man who knows potential when he sees it." "No," she said softly, "you're so much more than that." The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then Marcus announced they were home and the spell broke. But that night, after the children were asleep, Claire knocked on Ethan's office door. "Come in." She stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light. "I wanted to thank you, properly." "You don't need to." She crossed the room and kissed him again, but this time it wasn't about gratitude or adrenaline. This time it was about choice, about want, about two damaged souls reaching for each other in the darkness. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "So much for slow," Ethan said with a shaky laugh. "Maybe slow is overrated," Claire replied, but then stepped back. "Or maybe not, I don't know. I'm not good at this." "Neither am I. It's been a long time since I've navigated anything like this." Then we'll figure it out together. Together, he agreed. As she left his office, Ethan remained at his desk, his lips still tingling from her kiss. Outside, New York glittered in the darkness, unaware that in one penthouse high above the city, two broken hearts were slowly, carefully beginning to heal. The future was uncertain. David Thornton might return. The gallery showing might fail. This fragile family they were building might shatter under the weight of their respective baggage. But for tonight, for this moment, they had each other. They had hope. And sometimes that's all the foundation a family needs. The gallery showing was scheduled for 6 weeks out, and Claire threw herself into preparation with an intensity that both inspired and worried Ethan. She worked late into the nights, sketching, painting, creating pieces that captured not just images but emotions, the loneliness of a park bench in winter, the fierce protection in a mother's embrace, the tentative hope in a child's outstretched hand. "You need to sleep," Ethan told her one night, finding her in the spare room they'd converted into a studio, paint streaking her cheek, and exhaustion evident in every line of her body. "I can't," she said, not looking up from her canvas. "Helen wants 20 pieces. I have 12 that might be good enough. Maybe. They're all good enough. They're brilliant." Claire set down her brush, turning to face him. "What if no one comes? What if they come and hate everything? What if they love it?" Ethan interrupted. "What if this is the beginning of everything you've dreamed of?" "I stopped dreaming a long time ago," Claire said quietly. "Dreams were luxury I couldn't afford." "Then maybe it's time to start again." She looked at him for a long moment, then picked up her brush. 5 more minutes. "That's what you said 2 hours ago." "This time, I mean it." But Ethan knew she didn't. He recognized the obsessive need to perfect, to prove worthiness through exhaustion. He'd done the same thing after Sarah's death, throwing himself into work as if success could somehow fill the void. The next morning brought an unexpected challenge. Lily woke with a fever, crying for her mother in her delirium. It was the first time in months she'd called for Sarah, and Ethan felt the familiar knife of grief twist in his chest. "Mommy's not here, sweetheart," he said softly, pressing a cool cloth to her forehead. "But I'm here. Claire's here." "Want Mommy?" Lily whimpered. Claire appeared in the doorway, Noah on her hip. She took in the scene and immediately passed Noah to Maria, who had just arrived. "May I?" she asked Ethan. He nodded, moving aside as Claire sat on the bed, gathering Lily into her arms. She didn't try to replace Sarah or dismiss Lily's need. Instead, she simply held the little girl, humming softly, being present in the pain. "I miss her too sometimes," Claire whispered. "My mommy. Even though she wasn't very nice at the end, I still miss who she used to be." "Does it stop hurting?" Lily asked. "No," Claire said honestly, "but it changes. The hurt becomes softer, like a bruise that's healing." Lily curled into Claire's embrace, and within minutes she was asleep. Claire continued to hold her, looking up at Ethan with tears in her eyes. "She's so brave," Claire whispered, "so much braver than me." "You're the bravest person I know," Ethan said. "You faced down poverty, abuse, homelessness, all while protecting Noah. That's not just brave, that's heroic." "I was just surviving." "Sometimes survival is the greatest act of courage." Dr. Rosenberg confirmed it was just a minor virus, nothing serious, but Lily remained clingy and feverish for 3 days. Claire barely left her side, reading stories, making special teas. Maria recommended simply being present. Ethan watched them together and felt something fundamental shift in his chest, a recognition that Claire had become more than a guest, more than a friend. She had become essential. On the 4th day, Lily's fever broke. She woke clear-eyed and hungry, demanding pancakes and insisting Noah eat breakfast at the table with them, even though he was still on bottles and mashed foods. "We're a proper family now," Lily announced, syrup dripping down her chin. "Families eat together." Claire and Ethan exchanged glances over her head, both thinking the same thing, but neither brave enough to voice it. That afternoon, while the children napped, Ethan found Claire in her studio. She was staring at a canvas, a painting of Lily and Noah together captured in a moment of pure joy. "It's the centerpiece," she said, "for the showing. Helen thinks it could be the signature piece." "It's perfect." "It's terrifying," Claire corrected. "Putting this out there, letting people see, it feels like standing naked in Times Square." "Vulnerability is what makes art powerful," Ethan said, moving to stand behind her. "Sarah used to say that the things that scare us most are usually the things most worth doing." Claire leaned back slightly, not quite touching him, but close enough that he could smell her shampoo, feel the warmth radiating from her body. "I'm scared of a lot of things," she admitted, "such as failing, succeeding, being hurt again, hurting others." She paused. "You, me," she turned to face him, their bodies inches apart. "I'm terrified of you, Ethan Walker, of what you make me feel, of how much I want things I shouldn't want." "What things?" His voice was rough. "This," she whispered and kissed him. This kiss was different from the others, deeper, hungrier, full of longing and fear and hope, all tangled together. Ethan's hands came up to frame her face, and Claire pressed closer as if trying to merge their broken pieces into something whole. When they finally broke apart, both were shaking. "I can't do casual," Claire said. "I can't do meaningless. If we do this, it means everything," Ethan finished. "I know, that's what terrifies me too. Sarah would want me to be happy, would want Lily to have a complete family again." He paused, struggling with the words. "I'll always love her, she'll always be part of me, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for something new, someone new." "I don't know how to be what you need," Claire said. "I don't know how to be a stepmother or a society wife or any of the things that come with being with someone like you." "I don't want you to be anything but yourself," Ethan said. "That's who Lily and I fell in love with." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Love, he'd said, love. "Ethan, Daddy!" Lily's voice called from down the hall. "Noah's crying." The moment shattered reality rushing back in. Claire stepped away, her face flushed. "We should go," Ethan agreed. "But Claire, this conversation isn't over." The next few weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Claire worked on her pieces while Ethan handled the business side, insurance pricing, promotion. He also quietly increased security for the showing, not trusting that the Thorntons would stay away from such a public event. 3 days before the opening disaster struck from an unexpected quarter, Claire's parents appeared at the penthouse. Ethan was at work when Maria called, her voice tight with concern. "Mr. Walker, there are people here claiming to be Miss Claire's parents. They're insistent." "Don't let them in. I'm on my way." But by the time he arrived, Claire had already opened the door. He found them in the living room, Claire backed against the windows, her parents standing too close, their faces twisted with false concern and real greed. "There you are," her mother said, turning to Ethan with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be the man who's taken in our poor, confused daughter." "I'm the man who offered shelter to a woman you threw away," Ethan said coldly. Claire's father, a thin man with calculating eyes, stepped forward. "Now let's not be dramatic. We've been worried sick about Claire. When we heard she was living here well, we had to come see for ourselves." "Heard from whom?" Ethan asked, though he suspected he knew. "David reached out," her mother admitted. "He's so concerned. He wants to provide for his son, make things right." "He's not his son," Claire said, her voice stronger than Ethan expected. "David signed away any rights he had. And you chose him over me. You don't get to play concerned parents now." "Darling, you're clearly unwell," her mother said. "Living off this man's charity, dragging your child through instability. Come home. David's willing to forgive everything to provide for you both." "How much?" Claire asked suddenly. "What? How much did David pay you to come here? Or was it his father? What's the price for selling your daughter twice?" Her father's face darkened. "How dare you?" "Leave," Ethan said quietly. Now, before I call security. You can't keep us from our daughter, her mother protested. Your daughter is an adult who wants nothing to do with you. You made your choice when she needed you most. Live with it. This is kidnapping, her father blustered on, holding her against her will. Claire laughed, but it was bitter. The only people who ever held me against my will were David and you who locked me in my room when I refused to get rid of my baby. You who took my phone, my keys, my bank cards, trying to force me to comply. We were trying to save your future. You were trying to save your reputation, Claire shot back. You're standing at the country club. Your image as perfect parents with a perfect daughter. Her mother's composure finally cracked. You ungrateful little, do you have any idea what you cost us? The embarrassment, the connections we lost, and now you're playing house with some widower, using your bastard child to... The slap echoed through the penthouse. Everyone froze, staring at Claire, who stood with her hands still raised, her chest heaving. Don't you ever, she said, her voice low and dangerous, ever call my son that again. Her mother held her reddening cheek, shock and fury warring on her face. You hit me. You actually hit me. Get out, Claire said. Get out and never come back. You're dead to me. You've been dead to me since the day you chose David over your own daughter. You'll regret this, her father said, grabbing his wife's arm. When he gets tired of playing savior, when you're on the streets again, don't come crying to us. I'd rather die on the streets than in your house, Claire replied. After they left, Claire collapsed onto the sofa, shaking. Ethan sat beside her, gathering her into his arms. I hit her, Claire whispered. I've never hit anyone in my life, and I hit my mother. She deserved worse, Ethan said. Maybe, but that's not who I want to be, not who I want Noah to see me become. Noah will see a mother who defends him fiercely, who stands up to bullies even when they share her DNA. Claire pulled back to look at him. They'll cause trouble. They'll go back to David, tell him where I am, make up stories. Let them. We're ready for whatever comes. But Claire's prediction proved accurate. The next day, Ethan received a call from Michael Chen. We have a problem. David Thornton's filed for custody of Noah. Ethan felt his blood turn to ice. On what grounds? Abandonment by the mother, unstable living situation, concerns about the child's welfare. It's all fabricated, but with his parents backing him up, claiming they witnessed Claire being violent and unstable. Those bastards. There's more. They're requesting an emergency hearing tomorrow. Claire took the news with a stillness that worried Ethan more than tears would have. She sat perfectly still, staring at nothing, while Noah played happily at her feet, oblivious to the threat hanging over them. They're going to take him, she said finally, her voice hollow. David always wins. His family always wins. Not this time, Ethan said firmly. Michael, what do we need? Character witnesses, evidence of Claire's fitness as a mother, proof of David's abandonment and abuse. And Ethan, it would help if Claire wasn't technically homeless. She's not homeless. She lives here. As a guest. It's not the same as having legal residency, a formal arrangement. Ethan made a decision that should have felt rash, but instead felt inevitable. Then we'll formalize it, Claire, will you? He stopped, realizing what he was about to propose. Michael, give us a moment. After the lawyer left, Ethan knelt in front of Claire, taking her cold hands in his. This isn't how I wanted to do this, he said. But Claire, marry me. She jerked back as if slapped. What, marry me? It solves the residency issue, gives you legal protection, makes it harder for David to claim instability. You want to marry me to solve a legal problem. Her voice was rising, as some kind of business arrangement. No, Ethan said urgently. That's not Claire, I'm doing this badly. Yes, it would solve legal problems, but that's not why I'm asking. Then why? Because I love you, he said simply. Because Lily loves you and Noah. Because somewhere between Christmas Eve and now, you became essential to our lives. Because when I think about the future, I can't imagine it without you. Claire stared at him, tears streaming down her face. You can't mean that. We've known each other for weeks, months now, and I've known since the first week that you were different. Special, that you and Noah belonged with us. Ethan, I'm a mess. I have so much baggage. So do I. We can carry each other's. What about Sarah? Sarah would be the first person pushing us together. She believed in second chances in love, finding a way. He squeezed her hands. Claire, I'm not asking you to replace her. I'm asking you to build something new with me, something uniquely ours. The gallery opening is in 2 days, Claire said, as if that was relevant. We'll postpone it. No. She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. No, I won't let David take that from me too. Then we'll do both. Marriage tomorrow morning, custody hearing tomorrow afternoon, gallery opening is scheduled. Claire turned to look at him. You're insane. Probably, but I'm also right. About us, about this family we're building. Claire, you walked into our lives at exactly the right moment. Maybe it was chance, maybe it was fate, maybe it was Sarah pulling strings from heaven. I don't care. I just know that I don't want to lose you or Noah. What if we're making a mistake? What if we're trauma bonding or rebounding, or what if we're not? Ethan countered. What if this is exactly what it feels like? 2 broken families becoming one whole one. Before Claire could answer, Lily appeared in the doorway, having woken from her nap. She took in the scene, her father on his knees, Claire crying by the window, and marched over with determination. Are you proposing? She asked Ethan directly. Yes. Finally. Lily threw her hands up. I've been waiting forever. Forever? Claire asked, laughing through her tears. At least 2 whole weeks, Lily said seriously. Noah and I discussed it. We vote yes. Noah's 6 months old, Claire pointed out. He's very mature for his age, Lily said. So are you saying yes? Please say yes. I already told everyone at school I'm getting a new mommy and a brother. Claire looked between father and daughter, these 2 souls who had opened their hearts and home to her without reservation. Then she looked at Noah, who had pulled himself up on the coffee table, babbling happily. Yes, she whispered, then stronger, yes. Lily squealed, launching herself at Claire. Ethan rose from his knees, crossing to them, wrapping both in his arms. Noah, not wanting to be left out, crawled over and pulled on Ethan's pant leg until he was lifted into the group hug. We're getting married tomorrow, Ethan told Maria, when she appeared to see what the commotion was about. The housekeeper looked between them, taking in Claire's tears, Lily's joy, the way they all fit together like puzzle pieces that had been waiting to connect. About time, she said simply. I'll call the judge. He owes me a favor. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind. Michael Chen worked through the night preparing legal documents. Maria somehow procured rings and a dress for Claire that fit perfectly. Helen at the gallery agreed to handle the final preparations for the showing alone. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and cold. They gathered in a judge's chambers, Ethan in his best suit, Claire in a simple cream dress that made her look ethereal, Lily in her favorite purple party dress, and Noah in a tiny bow tie that he kept trying to eat. Do you, Ethan James Walker, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? The judge asked. I do, Ethan said, his voice strong and sure. Do you, Claire Elizabeth Evans, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Claire looked at Ethan, this man who had saved her in every way a person could be saved, who had given her hope when she had none left, who loved her despite her broken pieces, perhaps because of them. I do, she said. Then by the power vested in me by the state of New York, I pronounce you husband and wife. They kissed soft and sweet while Lily cheered and Noah gurgled his approval. 3 hours later, they stood in a different courtroom facing David Thornton across an aisle that felt like an ocean. David's face when he saw Claire's wedding ring was almost worth everything they'd been through. The hearing was brutal. David's lawyer painted Claire as an unstable opportunist who had manipulated a grieving widower. Claire's parents testified to her violent tendencies and mental instability. David himself played the concerned father, worried about his son's welfare. But then it was their turn. Michael Chen systematically destroyed every claim presenting evidence of David's abuse, his abandonment, his pattern of violence. Character witnesses included Dr. Rosenberg, who testified to Claire's devoted care of Noah despite impossible circumstances. George, the doorman, described the night David had come to threaten them. Even Helen from the gallery spoke about Claire's talent and dedication. The judge, an elderly woman with sharp eyes, listened to everything. Then she asked to speak to Claire directly. "Mrs. Walker," she began, and Claire started at the new name. "Tell me about your son." Claire's voice was steady as she spoke about Noah, his first smile, his determination to crawl despite being weak from malnutrition, the way he lit up when he saw Lily, how he'd started saying "Mama" just last week. "And tell me about your husband's daughter." Claire's voice softened as she described Lily, her bravery, her kindness, her insistence on sharing everything with Noah the way she'd appointed herself, his protector and teacher. "Your Honor," Claire said finally, "I know how this looks. I know it seems fast and suspicious and too convenient, but sometimes life doesn't follow conventional timelines. Sometimes families form in unexpected ways. All I can tell you is that I would die before I let anyone hurt Noah or Lily. They're both my children now in every way that matters." The judge looked at David. "Mr. Thornton, you claim to want custody of your son. Where were you when he was sleeping in shelters, when his mother was choosing between food for herself and formula for him?" "I didn't know." "You didn't care," the judge corrected, "until someone else stepped up to be the father you refused to be. Custody denied. Furthermore, I'm granting a permanent restraining order. You are to have no contact with Noah Evans Walker or his family." "Evans Walker," David sputtered. "I'm legally adopting him," Ethan said calmly. "Someone should give him the father he deserves." As they left the courthouse, Claire was trembling. "Is it really over?" "This part is," Ethan said. "Now comes the fun part." The gallery opening that night was a triumph. Despite, or perhaps because of the emotional chaos of the day, Claire's art resonated with viewers. The centerpiece, the painting of Lily and Noah, sold within the first hour for a price that made Claire gasp. "I told you," Helen said, appearing at Claire's elbow with champagne. "You have something special." But the moment that would forever be etched in Claire's memory came when Lily stood up during Ethan's toast. "I want to say something," the little girl announced. "Claire isn't my stepmom. She's just my mom now, and Noah isn't my stepbrother. He's just my brother, and we're not a broken family that got fixed. We're a new family that got born." There wasn't a dry eye in the gallery. Claire pulled Lily close, kissing the top of her head. "Out of the mouths of babes," someone murmured. Later, as they stood together looking at the sold stickers on so many of Claire's pieces, Ethan wrapped his arm around his wife's waist. "No regrets?" he asked. Claire looked at their children playing with Helen's assistant at the ring on her finger that had appeared so suddenly, but felt so right at the man beside her who had become her anchor, her champion, her unexpected love. "None," she said. "This morning I woke up homeless and alone except for Noah. Tonight I'm a wife, a mother of two, and an artist with a sold-out show. It doesn't feel real." "The best things rarely do," Ethan said, echoing his words from months ago. As they prepared to leave, Claire noticed a familiar figure at the back of the gallery. David's father, Richard Thornton, stood alone studying the centerpiece painting. He looked older, somehow diminished. Ethan tensed beside her, but Claire placed a calming hand on his arm. She walked over to the older man, Ethan close behind. "It's a beautiful piece," Richard said without turning. "The love between them is palpable." "Children don't know how to hide love," Claire replied. "They just feel it pure and uncomplicated. Unlike adults." He finally looked at her. I came to apologize. Not for David, that's his burden to bear, but for my part in enabling him, in covering for him, in choosing family reputation over doing what was right. Why now? Because I have a grandson I'll never know, because I see what my son lost through his own cruelty, because sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what truly matters. He pulled out an envelope. This is for Noah, a trust fund. David can't touch it, no strings attached. Just tell him someday that not all the Thorntons are monsters. After he left, Claire stood staring at the envelope, which contained a check that would ensure Noah's education and future were secure. You don't have to keep it, Ethan said. I will, for Noah. Someday he'll have questions about his biological father. At least I can tell him that his grandfather, in the end, tried to do right. They gathered their children, Lily sleeping in Ethan's arms, Noah in Claire's, and headed home. Their home. As the car moved through the city streets, still glittering with late Christmas decorations that seemed to have lingered just for them, Claire reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a park bench to a penthouse. From desperate survival to triumphant success. From broken strangers to a united family. It shouldn't have worked. By all logical measures, it was too fast, too complicated, too fraught with potential disaster. But as Ethan reached over to take her hand, as Lily mumbled in her sleep about her new mommy, as Noah curved into her warmth with absolute trust, Claire knew that logic had nothing to do with love. Sometimes families were born from biology and years of shared history, and sometimes they were forged in crisis, bonded by choice, and sealed with the kind of fierce love that only comes from choosing each other against all odds. As they pulled up to their building, George the doorman rushed to help them, with the children beaming at Mr. and Mrs. Walker with genuine joy. Maria had left lights on in the penthouse, and through the windows, Claire could see the Christmas tree still standing, still decorated, with the angel ornament she'd painted of Lily. "Welcome home, Mrs. Walker," Ethan said softly as they entered their sanctuary. Home. The words settled into Claire's bones like warmth after a long winter. She was home. They all were. The first months of marriage unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance, each partner learning the other's rhythms, occasionally stepping on toes, but always returning to the embrace. Claire moved her few belongings from the guest room to the master bedroom, though she stood at the threshold that first night, uncertain. "This was Sarah's room," she said softly, seeing the traces of another woman's life, that Ethan hadn't quite erased: a jewelry box on the dresser, a silk scarf draped over a chair. "It was our room," Ethan corrected gently. "Now it's our room, yours and mine. Sarah would want it filled with life again, not preserved like a museum." That night they lay side by side in the vast bed, not touching, but aware of every breath, every shift of weight. Claire stared at the ceiling, overwhelmed by how much had changed in such a short time. "Are you awake?" Ethan whispered in the darkness. "Yes." Having second thoughts. "No," she said, and realized she meant it. "Just processing. This morning I was single, tonight I'm married. It's a lot." "We don't have to. We can take things slowly. Just because we're married doesn't mean—" Claire rolled over, silencing him with a kiss. "Ethan Walker, we got married, adopted each other's children, and merged our lives in the span of a day. I think we've established that slow isn't really our style." He laughed, pulling her closer, and they discovered that while their hearts had been broken in different ways, they fit together perfectly in the darkness. Spring arrived gradually, then all at once. The park below their windows exploded with cherry blossoms, and Lily insisted on daily walks to see the pink petals fall like snow. Noah, now 11 months old, had progressed from crawling to a determined toddle, following Lily everywhere with devotion that made everyone's hearts melt. Claire's art career flourished beyond anything she'd imagined. Helen had arranged for 3 more showings, each more successful than the last. Art collectors began to recognize her name, and there was talk of a feature in Art Forum magazine. But success brought its own challenges. "Mrs. Walker, how lovely to see you." Margaret Whitmore cooed at a charity gala Ethan had insisted they attend. The woman's smile was sharp as glass. "Such an inspiring story from homeless to high society. You must tell me, how does one make such a dramatic transition?" Claire felt Ethan tense beside her, but she placed a calming hand on his arm. "One step at a time, Mrs. Whitmore, though I find the term high society rather outdated. We're all just people, aren't we?" "Indeed," Margaret's companion Dorothy Chen interjected with barely concealed disdain. "Though some people understand the responsibilities that come with position, the Walker name has always stood for something in this city." "It still does," Claire replied smoothly. "It stands for compassion, family, and second chances, values I'm proud to uphold." Later in the car, Ethan fumed. "Those condescending witches, how dare they?" "They're scared," Claire interrupted. "I'm not one of them. I didn't go to the right schools, don't know the right people. I'm proof that their carefully constructed walls can be breached." "You're worth a dozen of them." "I know," Claire said simply. "That's why their opinions don't matter." But the social pressure was relentless. Every event brought whispers, speculation, thinly veiled insults, disguised as concern. Claire bore it all with grace that made Ethan love her more, but he saw the toll it took, the way her shoulders would tighten at certain comments, how she'd sketch frantically after particularly brutal encounters, exorcising demons through art. The breaking point came at Lily's school spring showcase. Claire had volunteered to help with the art project, spending weeks working with the children on a collaborative mural. The night of the showcase, she stood proudly beside Lily as parents admired the work. "How colorful," one mother commented, her tone suggesting colorful was code for something less flattering. "Though I suppose we can't expect professional standards from amateur volunteers." "Claire is a professional artist," Lily said loudly, her little face fierce with indignation. "She has shows and everything. She's famous." "How sweet," the woman replied, patting Lily's head condescendingly. "Children do tend to exaggerate about their parents." "She's not exaggerating." Ethan's voice cut through the awkward silence. He'd arrived straight from work, still in his suit, commanding attention with his presence. Claire's last show sold out in 3 hours. The Times called her one of the most promising new voices in contemporary art. "But please tell us more about your professional qualifications in art education." The woman flushed and retreated, but the damage was done. That night, Claire sat in her studio staring at a blank canvas. "I don't belong in your world," she said when Ethan found her there. "I'm an imposter playing dress-up and everyone knows it." "You're my wife," Ethan said firmly. "The mother of our children, a brilliant artist. You belong wherever you choose to be." "Do I? Or am I just the charity case you married, like everyone whispers when they think I can't hear?" Ethan pulled her to her feet, forcing her to look at him. "You are the woman who brought light back into our lives. You are the mother who fights fiercely for her children. You are the artist who captures truth in every stroke. You are my choice every day, over and over again. Even when I embarrass you, you could never embarrass me. You only make me proud." They were interrupted by small footsteps. Lily appeared in the doorway, dragging her blanket, Noah toddling behind her in his sleep sack. "Why is everyone awake?" Lily asked. "Is it morning?" "No, sweetheart," Claire said, wiping her eyes quickly. "Just couldn't sleep." "Bad dreams?" Lily asked sympathetically. "When I have bad dreams, Mommy, I mean you sing to me." The slip was telling. Lily had been calling Claire Mom more often, though she still sometimes caught herself as if asking permission each time. "Would you like me to sing to you now?" Claire asked. "Can we all sleep in the big bed tonight?" Lily requested, like a family sleepover. So they did, all 4 of them piled into the master bedroom, Lily curled against Ethan's side. Noah sprawled across Claire's chest, the parents' hands linked over their children. It wasn't conventional or proper by society's standards, but it was theirs, and it was perfect. The next morning brought unexpected news. Sarah's parents, who lived in California and had maintained distant contact since their daughter's death, called to announce a visit. "They want to meet you," Ethan told Claire after hanging up. "And Noah." Claire paled. "What if they hate me? What if they think I'm trying to replace Sarah?" "They won't. Mom, Sarah's mom, she's been hoping I'd find someone. She worries about Lily growing up without a mother figure." But Claire's anxiety was palpable in the days leading up to the visit. She cleaned obsessively planned and replanned meals, second-guessed every outfit choice. "You're going to make yourself sick," Ethan said, finding her reorganizing the living room for the third time. "I need them to approve," Claire said. "They're Lily's grandparents, Sarah's parents. Their opinion matters." "They'll love you," Ethan assured her. "How could they not?" Robert and Jean Williams arrived on a Thursday afternoon, carrying gifts and tentative smiles. Jean was a softer, older version of Sarah, the same golden hair, now silver, the same warm eyes. Robert was tall and distinguished with the bearing of the college professor he'd been for 40 years. The initial moments were awkward, everyone too polite, too careful. Then Noah, in his typical fashion, broke the ice by toddling over to Jean and offering her his favorite stuffed duck. "Duck," he announced seriously. "It's a lovely duck," Jean replied, equally serious. "What's his name?" "Duck," Noah repeated, then climbed into her lap as if he'd known her all his life. Jean's eyes filled with tears as she held him, this little boy who had no biological connection to her, but who trusted so easily. "He's beautiful, Claire." "He's a charmer," Claire replied, relaxing slightly. "Like someone else I knew at that age," Robert said, watching Lily show him her art corner, the space Claire had created for her to create alongside her in the studio. Dinner conversation flowed more naturally than expected. Jean asked about Claire's art, genuinely interested, rather than politely inquiring. Robert engaged Ethan in discussion about the foundation Sarah had started, which Ethan had continued funding. "She would be so happy," Jean said, suddenly looking between Ethan and Claire. "Sarah, I mean, she would be thrilled to see this the family you've created, the love in this home." "You don't think it's too soon?" Claire asked the question that had haunted her, spilling out. Jean reached across the table, taking Claire's hand. "My daughter believed that love multiplies, never divides. She told me once near the end that she hoped Ethan would find someone who could love him and Lily the way they deserved. Someone who would understand that loving them didn't mean forgetting her." "I put fresh flowers on her grave every week," Claire admitted quietly. "White roses like in your wedding photos. I tell her about Lily's milestones, about Ethan's wins at work." "Is that weird?" Jean squeezed her hand tighter. "That's love, dear. That's family." Later, as they prepared the guest room, Robert pulled Ethan aside. "She's good for you," he said simply. "You look alive again." "I feel alive again." "Sarah would approve. You know that, right? She specifically told us to push you if you stayed stuck in grief too long." "She did. She even wrote Claire a letter." Jean interjected, joining them with an envelope she'd pulled from her purse. "She didn't know it would be Claire, of course, but she wrote a letter to whoever would love you both after she was gone. She gave it to me to deliver when the time was right." Ethan stared at the envelope, his late wife's handwriting visible on the front. "To the one who loves them after." "Give it to Claire privately," Jean suggested. "It's meant for her." That night, after his in-laws had retired, Ethan found Claire on their bedroom balcony, the letter unopened in her hands. "I'm scared to read it," she admitted. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope. The letter was quintessentially Sarah, warm, direct, and full of love. "Dear friend, if you're reading this, it means you've fallen in love with my family, and they with you. Good. They deserve to be loved. I don't know who you are, but I know you must be special. Ethan doesn't love easily or lightly. If he's chosen you, it's because you've brought light back to his eyes. Lily doesn't trust quickly. If she's accepted you, it's because you've shown her that mothers can come in many forms. I'm not there, but I'm not gone. I live in Lily's laugh, in Ethan's determination, in the love they share. Now I'll live in the family you create together too. Please don't feel guilty for taking my place. You're not taking it. You're creating your own. Love my daughter. Help her remember me, but don't let her live in my shadow. Love my husband. He'll frustrate you with his protectiveness and his tendency to work too much, but his heart is worth it. And love yourself. Whatever brought you to them, whatever pain you carry, let them help heal it. That's what family does. Thank you for loving them. Thank you for letting them love you. With gratitude and blessings, Sarah. Claire was sobbing by the end, great gasping sobs that shook her whole body. Ethan held her, his own tears falling into her hair. She was extraordinary, Claire managed between sobs. She was, and so are you. The next morning something had shifted. Claire moved through the apartment with new confidence, as if Sarah's blessing had finally given her permission to fully inhabit this life. She cooked breakfast with Jean, laughing over shared stories of Ethan's peculiar habits. She played with the children and Robert in the park, no longer looking over her shoulder for judgment or danger. But life, as it tends to do, had more challenges in store. The call came on a Tuesday. Claire had been painting while Noah napped when her phone rang, an unknown number she almost didn't answer. Miss Evans. The voice was official, clinical. This is Dr. Morrison from Lenox Hill Hospital. I'm calling about David Thornton. Claire's blood went cold. I have a restraining order. Mr. Thornton was in an accident. He's in critical condition. He's been asking for you and for his son. He has no son, Claire said automatically. Ma'am, I understand there are complications, but he may not survive the night. Sometimes in these situations, closure can be important for everyone. Claire hung up her hands, shaking. She called Ethan immediately. Absolutely not, was his immediate response. You're not going anywhere near him. What if he dies, Ethan? What if Noah grows up and learns? I denied his biological father a last wish. David denied himself everything when he chose violence and abandonment. But Claire couldn't shake the feeling that this was a moment that would define something crucial about who she was, who she wanted to be. I need to go, she said that evening. Not for him, for me, to look him in the eye and show him that he didn't break me, that despite everything I survived, thrived, found love. Then I'm coming with you. No, this is something I need to do alone. The hospital was sterile and bright, a stark contrast to the darkness Claire had always associated with David. He was in the ICU, connected to machines that beeped and wheezed. The accident had been brutal, a drunk driving incident, though David had been the drunk driver. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by the tubes and wires. His eyes opened when she entered, focusing with difficulty. Claire. Her name came out as a rasp. I'm here. The boy. Noah is safe, happy, loved. I messed up. Claire said nothing. She wouldn't give him absolution he hadn't earned. I'm dying, he continued. They say hours, maybe less. I know. I need to tell you, my father, he knew about the others. He covered it up. There are files, evidence in his home safe. He coughed, blood speckling his lips. The combination is your birthday. Claire stared at him. My birthday? How do you... I loved you once, David said, his eyes unfocused. Before I became this. I loved you. I'm sorry I turned that love into something monstrous. Sorry doesn't undo the bruises, the fear, the nights Noah went hungry because of you. I know, but I needed to say it, to tell someone about the files. Maybe it stops him from creating another me. Before Claire could respond, alarms began blaring. Medical staff rushed in, pushing her aside. She watched from the doorway as they worked, but it was futile. David Thornton died at 9:47 p.m., taking his demons with him. Claire walked out of the hospital into a spring rain, feeling strangely hollow. Not sad exactly, but empty of the anger that had fueled her for so long. David was gone. The boogeyman who had haunted her dreams was just a broken man who died alone. Ethan was waiting in the lobby despite her request that he stay home. "I couldn't let you do this alone," he said simply. She fell into his arms, not crying but shaking with the release of tension she'd carried for years. "He's gone," she whispered. "And how do you feel?" "Free, finally, completely free." The information about Richard Thornton's files proved explosive. Claire gave the information to Michael Chen, who passed it to the appropriate authorities. Within weeks, Richard Thornton was under investigation for multiple counts of obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and conspiracy. The Thornton empire began to crumble, board members distancing themselves, projects stalling, the family name becoming toxic. "You brought down a dynasty," Michael told Claire, admiration clear in his voice. "I just told the truth," Claire replied. "They brought themselves down long ago." Summer arrived with its own gifts. Noah took his first real steps on July 4th, tottering between Claire and Ethan while fireworks exploded over the East River. Lily lost her first tooth and declared herself practically grown up. Claire's art was featured in a group show at the Whitney, a dream she'd never dared voice. "We should celebrate," Ethan suggested after the Whitney opening, "a vacation somewhere beautiful and peaceful." "The four of us, the five of us." Ethan corrected his hand, moving to Claire's still flat stomach. She gasped. "How did you know? I only found out yesterday. I haven't even told you yet." "You've been glowing differently. And I saw the pregnancy test wrapper in the bathroom trash." "Are you happy?" she asked nervously. They hadn't planned this, hadn't discussed expanding their family. "Ecstatic," he said, pulling her close. "Another piece of our puzzle." They told the children together over dinner. Lily shrieked with joy, immediately declaring she would teach the baby everything. Noah, not quite understanding, but catching the excitement, clapped his chubby hands and shouted, "Baby," over and over. "Our family's growing," Lily announced to anyone who would listen. George the doorman, Maria, random people in the park. "We're getting another baby." But with joy came worry. Claire's pregnancy was considered high risk due to her recent malnutrition and stress. Dr. Rosenberg monitored her carefully, prescribing rest and careful nutrition. "I can't rest," Claire protested. "I have commissions. The children need me. There's so much to do." "The only thing you need to do is grow our baby healthy," Ethan said firmly. "Everything else can wait." It was during one of these enforced rest periods that Jean called with unexpected news. "We're moving to New York," she announced. "Robert's been offered a position at Columbia, and we want to be closer to you all, especially with the new baby coming." Claire cried happy tears. The family that had been fractured and reformed was growing stronger, adding layers like a painting built up over time. The summer stretched golden and warm. They spent weekends in the Hamptons at a house Ethan rented, the children playing in the sand, while Claire sketched and Ethan finally learned to relax. It was during one of these beach days that Lily made an announcement. "I want to change my name," she said, building a sandcastle with intense concentration. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Ethan asked. "I want to be Lily Walker Evans, or Evans Walker, so everyone knows Claire is my mom too." Claire's breath caught. "Lily, you don't have to." "I want to. Noah's going to be Evans Walker when the adoption goes through. The new baby will be too. I want us all to match." That night, as they tucked Lily into bed, she grabbed both their hands. "Do you think Mommy Sarah would be mad that I want Claire's name too?" "I think," Ethan said carefully, "that Mommy Sarah would be proud of you for having so much love to give." "Love multiplies," Lily quoted. "It doesn't divide." "That's right, baby," Claire said, kissing her forehead. "That's exactly right." As August rolled toward September, Claire's pregnancy progressed smoothly despite the earlier concerns. The new baby was strong, active, making their presence known with kicks and rolls that fascinated the other children. "Baby's dancing," Noah would exclaim, his hand on Claire's growing belly. They found out it was a girl during the 20-week ultrasound. Lily immediately began a campaign to name her sister suggestions ranging from Princess to Butterfly to Bob. Bob, Ethan questioned. It's unique, Lily defended. We'll keep it in consideration, Claire said, diplomatically. One evening as they sat on the terrace watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and pink, Claire turned to Ethan. A year ago I was sleeping on a park bench, certain I wouldn't survive the winter. Now I'm married mother to two amazing children with a third on the way, living a life I couldn't have imagined. Regrets? Ethan asked, though his tone was teasing. Only one, Claire said seriously. What? That I didn't let you help us sooner, that I wasted even one night being scared when I could have been here safe, loved. You needed to be ready. We both did. Daddy, Mom, come quick. Lily's voice carried from inside. Noah's doing something funny. They rushed in to find Noah standing in front of the Christmas tree. They'd left it up, unable to bear taking down the symbol of their beginning, with his arms raised triumphantly. Love you, he declared clearly, his first complete sentence. We love you too, baby, Claire said, scooping him up. Love multiplies, Lily said sagely. See, Noah knows it too. As autumn approached with its promise of change, the Walker-Evans family, for that's what they'd decided to call themselves, honoring both loss and hope, stood strong. They'd weathered storms, both literal and metaphorical. They'd faced down demons, stood up to society's judgment, and chosen love over fear at every turn. The penthouse that had once been a monument to grief had become a home filled with laughter, art, and the beautiful chaos of family life. Claire's paintings covered the walls, moments captured in color and light. Pictures of all four of them, soon to be five, cluttered every surface. We need a bigger place, Ethan mused one evening, looking at the controlled chaos of toys, art supplies, and baby equipment that had taken over the once pristine space. We need exactly this, Claire corrected. This place where it all began, where Lily asked why I was sleeping on a bench, where you offered us shelter, where we became us. Then we'll make it work, Ethan agreed. We'll always make it work. As Claire felt the baby kick, as Noah babbled happily in his high chair, as Lily practiced writing her new hyphenated name, as Ethan's hand found hers, across the dinner table she knew with bone-deep certainty that they would. They were an unlikely family formed by chance, tested by fire, and bonded by choice. They were proof that sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the most broken ground. They were, in Lily's words, a new family that got born. And that was more than enough. It was everything.